knowledge is always important, but at the same time, action is equivalently important. It all started with 2 bags and lots of motivation to do something bigger for my family. And then at that time, I was planning to buy an apartment to start my career. But one of my friends told me that, Andy, land is a component which appreciates and building is the component which is depreciating. And he said, have you heard of granny flats? I said, what is granny flat? And he said, do you see that box? I said, yeah, those guys pay me rent every week. If you build a granny flat, that will reduce your mortgage into half. So at that time, we thought, okay, we need to really work harder and nurture that mindset to surround yourself with the right people who will give you right motivation and always encourage you to go to the next step. Because when you reach one peak of the mountain, that's when the journey starts for the next peak of the mountain.
Hey guys, it's Kim here from Duo Tax. Today on the Duo Tax podcast, I have the wonderful Andy Saravaiya, who's our client. He's been our client for the past,
5 years.
5 years, yeah. And Andy, thank you so much for coming on today. 5 years ago, I think you're one of the main people who comes to my mind who asks so many questions about property that I cannot forget you. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your property journey.
Yes.
So Andy, first off, amazing $5.5 million property portfolio. Tell us a little bit about it if you can.
Yeah, it all started with career in this country. I came as a student with 2 bags and lots of motivation to do something bigger for my family back in India. So came to study in 2009 my engineering studies. I started in city called Toowoomba in Brisbane, which is a remote town away from Brisbane, which I was not even aware that it's a country remote town and it's away from city. So started my engineering, completed that in 2012. Moved to Sydney with my wife, which she landed in this country 14 days before we moved here. So I was working for a company into solar industry.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months working with them, I decided that I want to do something for my own.
Wow.
So I wanted to do something better for the community by helping them save on their electricity bills. And solar was a long-term planning for any homeowners. So that's how I entered into the solar industry.
Oh, how long ago was this?
I started my company in partnership in 2014. And then that went for 4 years. In 2018, I registered my own company as an Opera Solar Energy name.
Yes.
And that's where it started back on my own with me and my wife being the company directors. And the first property which we bought was a land.
Yes.
And at that time, we were so early stage in Sydney that we were not knowing about much of the areas at all.
Oh.
So we were renting at Rozelle in a 1-bedroom apartment. And I was working in Penrith region. At that time, I thought Penrith is a country town. That was my thought process early when I moved to Sydney from Brisbane, because it was away by 45 kilometers from that area.
Yes.
So I was thinking, okay, I'm working in country location.
Yes.
And then I want to stay close to that area. And then at that time, I was planning to buy an apartment to start my career. One of my friend instincted me that don't buy apartment, go with land. So he bought a house, existing one.
Yes.
And I said, I haven't got that much of cash sitting with me to buy a house. I might be able to buy a land. So he said, you got some savings, just buy the land. So we put our deposit of 40,000 on a land. And then the land was going to settle in 1 year time. And the guy who sold the land, he told me that, Andy, you will need to come up with another 20% to build that property on top.
Right.
So at that time, we thought, okay, we need to really work harder to make sure we don't lose our deposit of land.
Yes.
So we decided to work away from Sydney in country towns.
How long was the drive for?
At least 12 hours plus.
12 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we used to take break in between, but at that time we were not having kids. So it was me and my wife. And for my wife, everything was new because she just landed 14 days before we moved here. So for her, it was just like, she was my stepping stone, I would say, in that journey first.
Yes.
And she helped me to nurture that mindset that, yeah, you can do it.
Oh, wow. So she was your pillar.
Pillar of support, I would say, every time.
Yeah.
So, and then we worked there around 8 to 9 months to secure our $80,000 we had to save
Wow.
to buy our property and settle on the construction loan. And we moved in that property around 2017. During that same time frame, our kids also were born. So luckily that we settled on loan and then the kids were born. Otherwise, we couldn't have got the loan to do the construction because of the serviceability. Because we were blessed with twins.
Wow.
So I got a boy and a girl each. What I'm doing, everything is for them.
Wow.
So
the Jordan Springs property, what was it? Is it a house that you have or?
initially when we bought it as a land, and then we were in the search that what sort of builder we're gonna finalize. During that process, one of my client, he used to be a counselor for Penrith. He was the one who told me that, Andy, you can build a granny flat. Do you know that? How big is your land? That was his question. I said, it's a 528 square meter. And he said that, do you know how many people gonna live in this new home? I said, just me and my wife and maybe our 2 kids once they are born. And he said that, have you heard of granny flat? I said, what is granny flat? So I know studio, apartment, granny flat I didn't knew. And he is living on an acreage property. So on that property, he had a granny flat. So he showed, do you see that box? I said, yeah, that guy pays me rent every week. If you build a granny flat, that will reduce your mortgage into half.
What?
And then I said, yeah, I want to do that, man.
Yeah.
And then I started visiting display home in the Jordan Spring, but none of the builders were building granny flat at that time.
Right.
And a first condition for me was now that I want to build granny flat. So every builder I was going, I was telling, I want to build house with granny. If you don't want to build, then I'm not the right client. We moved on. One builder who was a project builder, Elderton Homes. They said, okay, we are happy because you are so persistently asking us and we haven't done that in the estate. Let's do it for you. That's going to be our case study as well.
So you're the first house
For
and granny flat.
early ones in Jordan Spring where we built the house and with a granny flat.
Yes.
Then I visited local real estate agents and there was a person named Nancy. She told me that, Andy, I'll give you a floor plan which will work for you, but you might have to compromise on the land if you're planning with a better privacy for yourself and your tenants. So we put a detached property and it costed me 20K more to build. I said, I'm happy to compromise. We didn't got the benefit of the first home buyer grant because in those days there was a limit threshold of 750,000. If your construction and the land is under 750, you get that 10,000 or 15,000 at that time. So I said, okay, I have to go and lose that. Instead of that, we go on a long-term thing. But that was the best decision because many of my friends were telling, oh, you're going to lose this, why you want to do that, and why you want to get a bigger loan. It's going to be stress otherwise. But at that time, because of that guy, Kevin, he said it reduced your mortgage in half. That was the seed planted in my thought that, okay, I want to do this.
So you gave up on that first home
buyer's
grant.
That was my sacrifice.
Yeah, so that you can have a better servicing of your property. Yeah.
And within that 2 to 3 year window, we saw that results that yes, it is helping us on a big time because we had to send our kids to a childcare. So after that first property of Jordan Spring, it built up that equity in 2 to 3 year window. And then in 2020, we wanted to use our savings to buy the first property. At that time, I was 2020 in March, the COVID came and everyone was inside the door and no one was supposed to travel too much out of the council area.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, I was not doing much and I thought, okay, let me go and inspect the property because that was 8 months back we planned. So this property I inspected, the agent was very, very aggressive that you have to put your offer today. Then I will take the offer to the owner. And I took my wife to the inspection after childcare when we picked up the kids. And I told in the car, this guy is asking me to sign up today and place 2.25. And her one question was, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be good?
Yeah.
I said, if he sell me at this price, then it's not a bad buy. It's less risk for us because land itself is that much cost. So we said, okay, you take our offer. And I signed the contract on that day. Next day, he called me that, Andy, the owner kicked me out of the property. That property he was planning to sell for $990 in 2017. But he didn't sold because he didn't got $990 at that time. And your offer is around $760.
Yes.
So he kicked me out of the property. And I said, okay, then I need to think on it. And I put the phone off. I called one of my clients. He's a very established property investor. He lives in Greenwich. And I called him that this is what situation I'm into. And he said, why you are talking like a lamb? Talk like a tiger. You're spending 700, 800K. Within 5 minutes, I called him. My last offer is 770. Don't ring me before 4. If you don't think it's not going to work for your client, this is my last and final offer. If you won't call me by before 4, my offer is going somewhere else because I'm ready with the loan.
Control the negotiations.
And then in next 5 minutes, I'm getting a call that your offer is accepted. And I called him that, mate, I put 770 and he accepted. He said that you would have paid 765. But I said I was just emotional. I paid 10K extra what he was expecting, and then the offer got secured. So we secured that property for 770. It started with rental income of $600 a week, which was in 2020 not that bad. And today we are getting around 800 to 780 rental return on that property.
So the agent basically tried to maneuver you, but you outmaneuvered them.
I won't say, I thought that was a blessing, because if he wouldn't have pushed me on that day that you have to sign up today, then only I can take your offer, I wouldn't have signed.
Yes.
And then the second decision was from my wife, and I went outside the property and she was with kids in car, and I asked her the question. She said, if you think it's right, why you want to take someone else's opinion? Just submit the offer. So that was our first investment property, I would say, where we started. That property we bought in around 2020 September. And settlement was going to happen in November to December timeframe. On December, I was just closing my computer desk on 31st December. And that Central Coast real estate search was still on the computer on. And a land was visible for 440. So I thought, okay, let me give a call to the agent, because it was listed that, okay, $1,000 deposit can secure you this block. So I called the agent and she answered on 31st December, which I was surprised. That someone has answered my call. And she said, Andy, look, this one will definitely go in January. After 7th, we're going to open again. It is someone finance is not approved. That's why they have put back on market. And previous land was selling 20,000-30,000 higher, 6 month difference. I said, okay, this was already listed for 440 and previous land were around 379, 380. I said, already it is higher price. And she said, Andy, trust me, this one you will not regret, because it will sell in January and $1,000 is your risk. If you don't like, we will refund you that back within your card. If you don't like that block. Okay, I said, take my card details. I came down and asked my wife that I have bought another land and paid. She was saying, you haven't settled that one and you paid $1,000 on this land. Why did you do that? She said, if you don't like the land or the area, you can get the refund, and $1,000 is just going to be refunded back. 2 months I visited to Central Coast in that area, back and forwards, met couple of real estate agents and asked them about that, what my thought process was for that land, that I want to do a duplex. First, I already did a house and a granny. So I wanted to take a risk on the duplex side, I said. And the land was giving me a window of 1 or 2 years because it was not settled. That land still till the date today still not settled, but I would have made equity on that proper land as well. And
have you seen how much equity has already grown within that land? The value of that land?
The value, as per the agent, the same agent who sold and who is the bigger agent in that area, he said that my purchase was 440. He can easily sell for 630 in today's market.
Wow, and it hasn't even settled.
It is not settled yet.
Wow.
613 square meter corner block, and I paid the council for a pre-DA meeting when the land was not registered, just to take my option that yes, I can build duplex on that land.
So it's DA approved as well for a duplex?
No, it has to be going under a DA process, but when it will happen, it is allowed to do duplex on that block. So then that land, I thought, okay, I'll build duplex at whenever the time permits for me. And as it is already dragged for this many years, I thought that let it be, whenever it settles, I will now take the thought process at that time, because 4 years I kept waiting, and finally I bought my principal place of residence in Balcombe Hills, which we were rent vesting from 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in 2021, we moved out of Jordan Springs, and in 2024, we bought our principal place of residence on our kid's birthday.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I
thank
think you
you.
just settled and moved into the property. Is that right?
Yes, we moved on 12th of December, which is our anniversary day.
Yes.
For me and my wife, we completed 10 years on that day. And the property was bought on November when our kids' birthday, when they were turned 7.
So just to recap, your portfolio now consists of a house and granny flat. So you've got a dual income property there over
Yes.
in
Jordan Springs.
Jordan Springs. There is now the
Glenmore Park one.
Glenmore Park. That is just a house.
And we
Glenmore
have
house.
just signed up an architect this week. And we are going an extra mile to see how we can attach a DA for a granny on top of the garage, which is another challenging job I'm doing. But that is what I'm thinking out of the box to make more value instead of going knock down, rebuild, which I already paid to a builder. But then I said, no, I want to do this instead of that. So
so they'll go and redesign the garage. Instead of paying for a knockdown and rebuild brand new house, it'll just be an extension of the garage itself.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. And for yourself, like that, obviously you mentioned earlier, trying to save up just a $20,000 deposit. What were the sacrifices that had to come with that, coming straight from, studies and, student loans, and what was the sacrifices that you had to?
So when I came to this country, my parents had to mortgage their home against education loan. So at that time, we had to put our own home, which was only one resident we had in India back. And he put that on mortgage with the bank to get my first initial $9,800 was my first semester fee for my engineering studies in 2009.
So your dad put the house on mortgage or
on the education loan
to the bank,
because he paid off the property, but he put that property that I want education loan for my son, but we don't have any other asset to back it up, but you can have our home. If that loan doesn't get paid off, then the whole house goes to the bank.
That's a lot of pressure for you.
That was a bit of a risk. But at that time, I was not that mature that I was thinking that it is a big risk my dad is taking.
Yes.
But when I was at the airport, the first thing when he was giving me, say goodbye, he said, I don't want you to think that I didn't spend money on your education. That's why we are sending you. So study well. And so those things were in my mind that when I came as a student for 2 to 3 months, it was a very challenging because everything was spoon-fed to me in India. I didn't even knew how to open a bank account because my dad everything was done by my dad.
Yeah.
I just had to go and study. And with here, when I came, it was everything we have to do by ourselves, which was a big change for me.
Was there a light bulb moment in your life that made you realize, hey, I really need to start looking at my future? Like, what was it?
So basically, when I came to this Sydney area and we were not into our own property, so that was always giving me a seed of when will we have our own home. So that's why we thought, okay, we were renting an apartment. We thought, okay, we'll buy an apartment as well. At least we can start the journey. But then we thought, okay, if we want to take a long-term gain, when we have kids, the space is going to be an issue for them to play. So let's go with a house. And that's why it will take 2 years, but at least it will be called as our own home where we have designed the bedroom and bathroom the way we want. And we will get 2 years time frame to build it and we will save that much time. So then first property, we didn't have too much of long-term. Only thought process was, okay, house we are building, granny flat will help us to repay that loan quicker. And then after 2 to 3 years in that window from 2017 to 2020, after we built that equity in the property, we were not even aware that equity can be used to buy the other property. We were saving money for the second property.
Did somebody tell you later on about equity?
So one of the client again, so my clients of my solar company have helped me a lot. He said, why you want to use your own saving of 130K? I said, I have saved that money. And what if next day you get an emergency, where you will get that funds from? Once it is going to the bank, they are not going to give you. So I said, then how did you manage to build your 4 properties? And he said, it's called equity. You ask your broker, have you got equity in your home? And I said, okay, I'll call him. And I called the broker. He said, yeah, you got equity. You want to use that funds? I said, yeah, my client told that you borrow against your property only.
So what did they explain to you equity was?
Equity, he just said that it's a difference in the value, but on your property, you have got fair bit of equity, which you can draw if you want to buy the second one and you don't want to disturb your savings. I said, then that's blessing because Once I use that, I will be left with 12,000 in my bank with 2 kids and growing business, which is difficult.
And childcare fees, don't forget that
Childcare
too.
fees. So at that time, we were not sending them full time.
Yeah.
We were just sending them 2 to 3 days. But again, the granny flat helped us to keep them into the childcare as well, because 2 fees we were able to afford from the rental income.
Wow.
From the granny.
And one thing that I noticed as well with your portfolio is that they're all in New South Wales. And a lot of people do say New South Wales is not attainable. And so would you have any advice for anyone who looks at New South Wales and says, it's just not possible?
Mainly what has worked for me is the frugal living. Budget is a big component to that. So,
yes.
So we like to plan things on budget, that okay, this much money we have to spend. We can't always get to the right amount. We always go a little bit over. But if the budget is there, then the second year, third year process is simple, that we have to make this much. Then only we can afford that. Simple.
So how do you do your budgeting? Do you look at your servicing every month, or do you
once in a year with my accountant?
Yep.
So we do the projection for 1 or 2 years, and anything which I want to buy as a principal place of residence or so, we won't use that money on any other different asset class.
So there's a few properties in the portfolio, a few different types as well. What would you say is the best performing property that you have within the portfolio?
After I bought the Jordan Spring one, I learned from this current Balcombe Hills property that in that same 2020 year, if I would have purchased that similar amount of money I spent on the Jordan Spring, if I would have purchased in this area, then we would have got a drastic change on the equity. So also the concept where it comes, land is a component which appreciates and building is the component which is depreciating. That was true in that scenario, which we already felt that we should have gone other way around by buying existing dwelling like Glenmore Park, because Glenmore Park equity was in a fast lane, whereas Jordan Spring was a slow lane.
Yes. So the equity that you draw from your property in Glenmore Park, because Glenmore Park is a investment property, does that then make the equity drawn out from it tax deductible too?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
So it helped us into the depreciation schedule. Also was a big thing for us. We learned that from doing the depreciation schedule with Tax. I was not even aware that I was not aware until I was being introduced by Gagan.
Yes.
Gagan, that have you want to get a depreciation report on your Glenmore Park, the Jordan Spring granny flat? I said, what is that depreciation report? I was not even aware. He said that is like you get some tax back if you have the schedule and your accountant will do it. So I called you and you were generous enough to explain me that what depreciation means. And it was simple process, just a building contract sent by email. Next week I got a schedule. This is the way you can depreciate it for 40 years. I said, that's simple. And now I'm so much into it that I tell my accountant, this property this year, this is the depreciation. These are the schedule. You just have to verify it and then submit it.
Yes, fantastic. Well, yes, it isn't as easy as that. But yes, the depreciation, I think, on your granny flat was probably about, I think, 7,000 or 8,000.
Yeah, it started with that amount, yes.
Yeah. And you've added on to it as years, so then you can claim additional depreciation on those additional assets that you put onto it as well.
So one thing we did was the solar system installation on our properties.
Of course.
And then that helped us to retain the tenants. So those tenants, we had 2 to 3 year continued lease and they were not moving out, and we were quite happy because the rent which we were receiving was above market rent. They are so happy that whenever we need access for valuation and things, it's very simple process. I just ask them, they said, okay, what time you want? I tell this time and they always help me.
Isn't that such a great thing? You help the tenants out and the tenants make your life easier,
what goes around comes around.
Yeah, exactly. So Andy, you have been a client with us from 2017, so the past 7 years.
Yes.
We look back at a few of the figures and, based on the average Australian tax bracket of about 35%, we estimated that you probably would have saved about $25,000.
Yes.
Can you share with us what would you have done? What have you done with that money?
So some of that funds every 2 years we go and visit India. That has helped us to take care of our family, to take overseas trip. And then when we go to India, we do like to visit our village and do some charity work. And that money, we contribute 20% of that on that purpose.
Wow.
So that also keeps us motivating that we have to do this to go to that next step again higher.
Do you think it would have been possible without the depreciation, or would there have been something that you had to
Work hard
sacrifice
for
on?
that. Yeah, we have to work hard for that other extra, that another, this tax depreciation thing which you helped me in, duo tax always helped me when my questions were there, that what if I add this value to the property, how much of the benefit I get on depreciation. And then you guys were always helpful, that Andy, you put this product, then that depreciation of tiles is going to be very long. Instead of that, if you put hybrid flooring, the depreciation is faster.
Yes.
So what I
that's
have
right.
learned from that, and also reading books, is tax is an optional thing. You are not doing anything wrong for the economy or avoiding tax. You are just taking an option. If it is possible, then you're just saving that. So I consider that as a knowledge is always important, but at the same time, action is equivalent important as well.
And so with yourself, I guess having the mindset that, everything you do comes around once again for you. Do you have any plans for the future with the properties themselves? Like, you've got the one in Central Coast you're going to do a duplex on, but do you see any future property investing plans for yourself?
So now I'm thinking that now, as I have got big land tax bill every time triggering higher and higher, then I'm thinking of diversifying into different interstate modeling.
Right.
But for that, I'm thinking that I'll go after my principal place of residence is paid some portion, and then I will do the rinse and repeat. Till that time, I'm going to not consider diversifying and again building a bigger property portfolio in next 5 years. So my acquisition stage, I'm going to do little bit slowly and just give the current properties time to grow up more before I do anything else.
If you had a remote that can fast forward you into the future but still keep you in today's time, what would be the options that you'd look into in diversifying your portfolio?
If everything is working well in my cash flow side, then I will hire the right people into the team and put those people to work for me and find the right asset class.
So you have quite a few structures in the property portfolio itself.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you've got, the properties underneath your individual name.
Yeah.
Then you've got one that's held underneath a specific type of trust, is it?
Yeah, that is under, we set up an SMSF 1.5 year back. We set it up because 1.5 year back we planned for it. We set it up, but we were not ready to buy the asset under SMSF because once my borrowing capacity got exhausted and the ceiling was hit, we thought that, okay, as a business, we want to buy something where we can have our own office space, warehouse type property. And then luckily, we recently bought it off the plan, warehouse facility in Sydney.
Oh, fantastic. So is there an end game for you, Andy? Like, what is the purpose for your investing journey? What is your goal for your portfolio? Do you have a number, or is there a property, size, or?
I haven't made up any number on my mind, but yeah, I want to do it something for my kids, obviously. And then also in next 15-year window, we want to pay off that our principal place of residence with debt consolidation. And that's what we want to build, an asset base where we consolidate it after 15 years to repay the remaining debt. And then we can think on doing something meaningful for, my dad was student in India, and people from the village paid for his fees to make him study. Because my grandfather used to work in the farm. They didn't have the money to pay for his fees. After year 4, he was being helped by the people in the village, where they contributed towards his fees to year 10, year 12. And then he was good at studies. He got scholarship and he completed his bachelor's, postdoc. He's a doctor in horticulture in India. He's retired now as a professor. But this is something, because of his education, I am here in this country today. And then I want my kids to get the good education and then repeat that story for someone else.
So what would you say is, just to wrap things up today, what would you say is some advice you would give, people who are studying at the moment, who might be coming from India studying as students, who might be looking at, who just got married and have a wife and they're planning their future, or they're having kids, or maybe twins like yourself? What is some advice that you could give people out there who are starting their journey or looking at some guidance or advice from? What would you give them?
Currently, I think this current economy where I have seen a lot of clients of mine where they have got their kids as well and in as a uni student, and I'm looking at some of the people telling me that okay, my kid has got this much of HEX debt. And even when the kids come from India as international students, they pay 3 times more fees than an average Australian student. But what my piece of advice would be that you have to save at early and don't spend money on things which are not necessary and it's not helping you to increase your knowledge or your skill set. Focus on budgeting, focus on saving, and surround yourself with the right people who will give you right motivation and always encourage you to go to the next step, because when you reach one peak of the mountain, that's the journey start for the next peak of mountain.
Yeah,
Never stop.
That's
keep moving.
fantastic advice. Thank you, Andy.
If you rest, you rust. That's what I believe.
Quote of the day: if you rest, you rust.
Yes.
Well, guys, that wraps it up for today's podcast with Andy. If you have not done so, make sure you subscribe and like this video for more videos like this coming up on our channel. Thanks.